Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Shillong Reading Room. This is episode 3 of this series, and we're very delighted to have with us today Jemimah Marak, who's a good friend and also somebody who we've had long conversations about. She's here to share her work called Kimbe in Balpakram, which she will tell us a bit more about it. She is a storyteller, she's a writer, she's been doing this for many years, she's been all over the country as well. She's been having these sessions online as well as in various spaces, and we're here today to try to learn a little bit more about what exactly this book is all about. It's a story book, it's something for children, it's something very interesting and exciting. I would love to explore this with her now. We have to acknowledge that we are here due to the generosity of the hosts. We are in Shillong, which is a lovely guest house here in Maukanroa. So thank you once again to the host, Kong Farida and her family, and let us begin. So, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Abner. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, as you know, as the audience probably now knows that we've been friends before this session. So, how did you get into storytelling? Like, why? What was the reason behind all this?
Oh, I think it was always in my DNA to be filled with imagination, to love to tell stories. I don't think I've ever had a dreamless sleep. Always filled with dreams, and of course breakfast conversations were all about I saw this and I saw that and this happened and I flew and I fell, and so it's always been animated, an animated childhood, which has now followed me into adulthood also.
Right.
So and of course growing up with a mother who loved telling us bedtime stories, and my own tribal identity, my uncles, aunties, relatives who would visit, or even friends in the community. There's always stories. So I think it came very naturally for me to get into storytelling. Now, as a counsellor and a teacher, I'm now exploring how to use storytelling in for mental health as well, emotional and mental health. Then there's also, I use it to train teachers how to be more creative in the classroom, how to express themselves better. So it's a multifaceted space now.
So that's a very interesting point there that you made about mental health, because obviously I think this book as well is dealing with that issue, right? Like
closure. There's closure.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kimbe?
All right. So when we first started out, this was actually a commissioned project by the Forgotten Folklore Project of the Sauramandala Foundation. It's part of a 45 book series, or I'm not very sure. I think so. There are 45 different stories, and mine is also one of them. So when they approached me to write this story, my first thought was, we have so many amazing stories that we keep hearing from people in the villages. I think they have the most fascinating stories. And at some point, I wanted to bring those stories to other readers as well. Not everyone can visit the rural, storytellers after all. And in fact, it wasn't Kimbe in Balpakram earlier. It was the Balpakrram, which is the tree around which the spirits would tie their companion animals in the afterlife. But that word was one difficult to pronounce, and of course that would have kind of narrowed down, the next parts of the stories. So I felt Balpakram being this mystical, mysterious and sacred part of Garo culture, our identity as a community also. It would be good to start there. And Kimbe being, another thing was, I wanted to, to be morbid, to kill off an old man instead, to tell the story from an old man's perspective. Because, it's easier to accept an old person dying rather than a young person. However, the editorial board with Pratham Books and also the folklore folks, the people there, when we spoke about it, we said, why don't we get a young child instead, and then the curiosity and the innocence of a child can be brought out in the story. And it took off in a really beautiful direction.
Yeah.
So that's how Kimbe in Balpakram was born, her adventure into the afterlife.
There's a lot of pathos in the book. It's a short story book, but also it has a kind of a poetry, which is very sad to say it's missing in a lot of books coming from this region. Again, could you delve more into the morbidity that you're talking about? Obviously, it's about death, right? And this is a very touchy subject. How did you bring yourself to conceptualize this?
Of course, my own initial reaction to a young person, passing, was shock and sadness. And since children, I'm a teacher. I started my career teaching little ones, and they are the dearest human beings to me. It was very difficult to make peace with it, but also, I think being a Christian, we are taught about it, eternal life, and then of course so many other faiths have afterlife and eternal life, or life after death. So it was just a transition. Now, when you look at life and death from that perspective, then you understand that it is a journey, maybe a different journey, so to speak, the end of one and the beginning of another, but a journey nonetheless. So I think that was what helped the initial, creating, to use death as a space to tell a gentle story. It need not be one that is frightening. It could be one of comfort. It could be one of, tenderness. And children, it is not to say that death is only for the adults to understand or they are affected by death. So do children. They are, in fact, maybe because adults are able to kind of express themselves, there is still a sense of closure. But what about children? How do they understand death? How do they understand loss? So this is not so much to frighten. The story, how it came about, was not so much to frighten, fear of the unknown, which is death in this case, but to also help them kind of maybe understand and embrace loss, sadness as part of life in general.
I completely agree with you. I think we can talk more about the folk traditions, right? The stories, because many of them do deal with very disturbing things, right? The morbidity is very much prevalent. We can talk more about that, but how did you first come to hear about the Garo stories and traditions?
Okay, so to kind of introduce, I'll come back to that, but a little bit about the background is that I was born in Mizoram. My mum is Mizo and my father is Garo. So I was born in Mizoram, but then I had my first travel when I was all of 3 months. So we moved to England, and then to Delhi, and then to Assam after that, and then to Pune. So I think, and then of course, high school finished it in Kodaikanal, Tamil Nadu. So when we came back to the Garo Hills as family, this was in 2000. Now, of course, my my interest and affection for stories and ghost stories has always followed me wherever. And then coming to the Garo Hills, introduced to a new world, a whole new world of stories, supernatural ones, and you have, and of course my own experiences. If time permits, maybe I'll tell you a couple of my own experiences with the Garo ghosts. But I think and then when you hear stories, and then you have your relatives. I forgot to mention, my cousin from the village, a much older cousin, she came to live with us from the time that we were in Delhi, and she moved around everywhere with us. My parents were working, both of them were teachers, and also in the development sector. So they were always out of home. So we had my cousin who would tell us a whole lot of stories. And many times in our, for example, when we sleep, don't sleep with the window open. And then we would ask, why? I mean, our childish selves would always ask why. And then say, it's not good, That was the standard answer. But then the annoying kids that we were not satisfied with it's not good. We needed an answer. So I think maybe the stories came from there also. Ghosts will, evil spirits will enter from, open windows. It's like an invitation for them to come into our home. So, that is just one example. There were so many of them. Don't do this at night. Don't whistle. I was not allowed to whistle at night. It is a call to evil spirits. Those kind of things. So, and then coming back to the Garo Hills, whenever we would visit the village, we sit around the fire in the evenings in my dad's village, which is beautiful. That is where, this happened. This, there was, somebody saw a spirit and somebody heard a noise, and we found this particular plant on our way to the jungle. So that is how I think my curiosity and the desire to kind of write more, to know more, came about. So first it was the oral stories, then of course I read a lot also about more of these stories.
Tell us about Garo ghosts. You've teased us about that.
Okay, I mean, I'm just guessing that it's a Garo ghost. Okay, maybe my own story, there'll be time for it. But we lived in Tura. My dad was the General Secretary of the Garo Baptist Convention. So we lived in the mission compound, and right across the street was a hospital, the mission hospital. And as with all hospitals and small communities, there's always, unexplained noises and movements. So there was this one gentleman who was traveling from his village towards Tura, and it was late in the night. He happened to see a pregnant lady walking on the road towards the hospital, and thinking that she needed help, he offered a lift. And then when he asked about her husband, she said he was away at work, and her baby was on the way. She needed to go to the hospital. Gave her a lift, and just as they reached the hospital, and he said, "We've reached the hospital," he turned around and she was gone. And the same person was brought to the hospital the next day. That is how the story came out. He was brought to the hospital with a very high fever. So, probably frightened into a fever. So these stories exist. They're so much a part of, the fireside conversations in Garo Hills. My own was crazy. We had a poltergeist that followed us home. and played with the lights. It was just like in the movies, played with the lights, and the alarm clock rang in my bedroom.
Where was this? Was it in Tura?
In Tura, yeah. So yeah, there's so many more stories like that keep coming.
Like if people wanted to read more about these stories, right? Like, is it that most of this information, most of this knowledge is kept only in the language, or are there also translations of it which people can access maybe online? I've seen a few, but I feel like I'm talking from my perspective here as well as a Khasi. Like there's not enough,
Yes, I agree with you. Sometimes I think that maybe I have not ventured out enough and explored enough. But I have come across a couple of books. There are some individuals who are making the effort to translate these folklore into English, and the books that I think the books that you have mentioned, like for example the epic lore of the Garo, of the Garos, folk tales of the Garos, they were written by a gentleman called Okay. All right. I can't remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But he has written them in a very old English, and it's in fact the language is so rich, and I think in scholarly circles they would appreciate the language. But then for a child, it may not be as appealing unless an adult kind of not just reading but tells them the story after reading it themselves. So we need more content like that, more storytellers and storytelling, more translations for children of all ages, and I remember the name, Diwan Singh Rongmutu. Yeah, that's his name. So I think we need more spaces like that. We do have a few books floating around. Sometimes I feel like even the quality of the books themselves and the distribution and the market access, or rather the access to these books, are limited, are not as much as I would have liked. So the Forgotten Folklore, under their project, they have quite a few, like Nokpante. Then we have I think Ambi's Little Things. So there are a few Garo based, Garo Hills based, and Garo culture based stories like that. Yeah.
So now I just want to go back to the book because we are discussing that. So what exactly is the significance of the calf? Like that is one of the characters, and you've mentioned that animals being tethered to that tree are very important. What is this significant? Because I've seen somewhat similar, perhaps. I mean, I'm extrapolating, but during Mangala as well, they have that central pillar where the animal is slaughtered, and then there's a whole ritual around it. So is it similar, or is it somewhat? Is it different?
I did not. So yes, there is mention of sacrifice, but very subtly in the book, where I mean the word sacrifice, you won't find it there, but I think I have mentioned sacrificial altar. Now, but in the story, why the calf is also because it's a young animal. Kimbe is a young person, and the Garos have a very beautiful bond between, with their animals. Something that I have seen in my own father's village, a tiny village called Demdema in the West Garo Hills, and the cows and the pigs and the animals of the house, and they're not just livestock or property. They are part of the family, and they have names. So I would see my aunt, I would follow my aunt in the mornings just to see the kitchen gardens and things. And she would call them by name, and they would all come to feed. And I thought that was so beautiful. In the evenings, when we sit around the fire, on winters, cold winters, inevitably you'll have, 2-3 dogs sitting around as well, alongside the people in the village. And when a story or any conversation is happening, it's like the dogs seem to be following, who's speaking as if they understand. And then just lightheartedly, maybe an aunt or an uncle or somebody, like how we have Mo, will say something and say, oh, that is the right way to do it, Mo. And then, the person will look at the animal. So I felt that beautiful bond between the child and the young calf. I wanted to bring that out in the picture, in the story. And then also the sacrifice part, where a companion in life and also a companion in the afterlife. I read also somewhere that, there is, it's very similar to Hindu rituals, where, but this was told to me. But then somewhere it was in my subconscious, and then I wanted to bring that out. Then I found out that, yes, there is a tree which has, unexplained and very odd depressions around the trunk, like, which look like ropes have been tied around it. And that tree does exist in the Balpakram. Yeah. So that is where the lores come from, the myths and the legends and the stories come from. And it feels so real to see tangible proof that it exists, that something like this could happen.
So in the story, like, does the calf also go to like heaven?
Yes. To Balpakram. Yeah. So that is the companion into the afterlife. Yeah. And so sacrifices are, I think they do exist. Like, for example, cows are always a part of, I don't know if it is the meat value of it, but cows are always part of the funeral feasts. It's not feasting as in celebration, but communal eating, those who come to pay their respects to the dead.
Right. Yeah. And how did you feel when you were writing, like going back to the morbid parts of the book? How did you feel? What was your personal feeling towards it? Because you would tell me that initially it was an old man. That's a different feeling altogether, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you have to write about a young girl passing away, like, how did you feel about that, and how did you bring yourself to write about it?
I think, as I had mentioned earlier, it was difficult for me to, kill off a young person. But again, as I had mentioned, death is also part of, it's part of life. And it is also part of the life of many young people. And I think what is important is to acknowledge that it is often very difficult. So some parents, after I did the storytelling of this book, of this story in Delhi, I had a couple of parents who wanted to come and speak with me after it. And then one of the things that they resonated with was how awkward conversations become when it comes to death. And this book helped talk about it. And I think that is where I understood more how important it was to acknowledge that that in our, in the life as we know it, the earthly life, it is a part of it. But at the same time, because she's a child, you are able to capture that wide-eyed innocence, the curiosity, the adventurous spirit also in the story. So Kimbe in Balpakram, not Kimbe who has left the earth, but it's Kimbe in Balpakram. So she gets to see all the elements of the stories that she heard from her grandparents. And then her mum would tell her about, or her grandmom mostly in the story was her storyteller. So she would talk about, the chi de mak, which is chi means water, the mak means ash. So she would talk about the pool of ashes where when bodies were cremated, their spirits would wash off the ash in that lake. And it does exist, by the way, in Balpakram, yeah. And then, of course, that tree that I told you about, the machu. Machu means cow. Boldak is the tree. Karam is the place where the cows are tied. Then you also have the ghost markets. So, as she walks through Balpakram as a new spirit, as a new entry into Balpakram, for her it's not fear but wonder. Like, I recognize this from the stories. I remember this from the stories. So that was what I wanted to kind of highlight. Yeah.
It sort of reminds me little bit of Spirited Away, where you have that animated film where you have this whole other world, where people are staying and they're doing normal things, right? So when you're talking about ghost markets, and it's like there's this other space which is obviously human beings cannot enter, but when people go, they cross over into the other side, it's very normal, like things that, is there something parallel like that as well, because you're talking about these?
My friend's father, who was a doctor, and he was a missionary doctor, and he would travel to different villages and places on foot back then, and sometimes would have to cross forests at night. And he was an amazing storyteller. Of course, he's passed on. But one of the things one of the stories he had mentioned was the ghost village, that he had stumbled upon a village, and thinking that he was among human beings.
Yes.
He asked for water, and just like how a stranger would come to your door, he was welcomed in, given his food and water. He stayed the night. When he woke up in the morning, there was no village. He just found himself in a clearing in the jungle, and we got to hear the story after that. It was amazing. But Balpakram also has the ghost market. I think it's very similar to the Khasi folklore, Luri Lura.
Yeah, Yo Luri Lura.
Yeah. So I think we have something similar like that. So we have the ghost market where now during the day, people who have seen it,
right,
they have spoken of paw prints, hoof prints,
right,
many of them. So I think, where are all these animals or people?
right.
But you see their prints, you see their impressions everywhere.
So they were there the night before.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. With the illustrator, was it somebody you already knew, or
no? This was part of the project that
right,
the FFTP were already doing. So they had their own pool of illustrators and storytellers. But then how we worked was very collaborative, very interesting. We had a Google, we worked on a Google sheet together, and I would describe the emotions, I would describe how the expressions were to be, and the illustrator would send in pictures. Is this all right? Just even hand gestures, the movements, the positions. So there was a lot of back and forth. In fact, it took longer than most other books, was what I was told, because there was so much of emotion in this journey.
Yes.
So we wanted to do justice to each emotion. So I think the illustrator did such an amazing job.
Yes.
Arak Sangma. Yeah.
And how long did it take, like in total?
I think it was almost 6 months.
Oh.
Yeah, the entire process from writing the story to the illustration, and then there was then the back and forth. Most other books, because again it was a children's book, I think about 12 to 15 pages maximum. Most other books, they took about 3 months or so, they said. Ours was a little longer.
But it came out well in the end, very well.
Yeah, it felt like it was all worth it, yeah.
So, what what do you hope children will take from this? What do you hope parents take from this? And do you want this to be expanded further, perhaps?
Yes, absolutely. So, because of my own kind of journey along with Kimbe, that the child in me, going through the motion of saying goodbye to your earthly life, your mum, your dad, your siblings, your the life that you know as a child, which is so innocent and free, like as a child, so carefree, but to be taken away from that life as you know it. So it opens also with her understanding that she is no longer part of the earthly realm. Her spirit floats above her, and then she sees people crying, and then she relates it to her own grandfather passing away, and she said, it's a lot like when Achu died. Achu means grandfather. So it's a lot like when Achu died. And the rituals, the Ajaya, the funeral dirge of the Garos. This is not done much anymore, especially in modern Garo funerals.
Yeah.
But in the villages, in some remote villages, you would still get to hear it. Now, if people in the town area, they know about the Ajaya, it's because it was performed on a stage, most likely. So now it's become a performance rather than,
genuine grief.
A ritual. So my own, my first kind of exposure or understanding of what this was and the significance of it was when my own uncle passed away, and my dad's older brother, and my aunt, my dad's older sister. She performed the Ajaya, and so she sat at the threshold of the door, and she sang out his entire life, and he, from the day that he was born, and all the things that he did, and all the people who are coming in to come and say their goodbyes. And part of the song would be so and so's father has come, so and so's mother has come. So what I want children to know is to also learn about these rituals, these beautiful cultures that are so gentle, and I mean they hold space for each emotion, and I think each action, each activity. So that was one. The other thing is also courage. Kimbe, she's all maybe, I don't think the age is mentioned as such, but she might be about somewhere between 6 to 8. And she has a lot of curiosity, and there's courage as well. She's not crying for her mom. She's not, or her dad, and I want to do this, I want to do that. So she's not disturbed by it. There's a lot of wanting to know more, like what's going on, wanting to understand. So curiosity. That's another thing that I would love for children to kind of develop more. Then also that the bond between humans and animals, that beautiful tender bond that we cannot experience with another human being, unspoken almost, but expressed so beautifully in that story. For the adults, I think also as per what some of the parents had shared, to be able to talk about loss and sadness more freely and less awkwardly also, because children do experience them.
Yes.
But along with that, for them, there's a whole lot of confusion also. They don't understand what is going on. So you might have, children laughing, joking around the dead body in a family funeral, for example. Or you might have children, constantly asking their parents, why is grandfather sleeping? Why is he not talking? Why is he, why does he stay still? So to help explain that their earthly body is at rest now their spirit is in a happier space, and they're all right. So that closure, that healing, I think there's so much of important conversations that can come out from reading a story like Kimbe and Balpakram.
It's a great tool, I feel, also for many people, because I think also because it's very contemporary, even though it's set in the past. It's a very contemporary. I mean, this is a perennial issue, right? Forever.
Yeah, yes.
People will always be dealing with loss. People will always be dealing with sorrow. And it's a wonderful piece of work. Thank you so much for having done it. Yeah. So, what other editions, if any, are?
Okay. So on Story Weaver, the story that was uploaded, the Kimbe and Balpakram story, has been translated into 5 other languages as well, including Bahai and also Tamil. And now the Tamil version is being now written in the form of a play. A theatre artist friend of mine, with whom I did the expressive arts therapy in Chennai, got in touch with me asking if we could create a play out of the story. So I think death and the whole journey from earthly life into the afterlife is something that is across all cultures and belief systems and communities. So this is one. Yeah.
And I think mortality and plays go very well.
Absolutely. I think so much of expression, such powerful emotions also.
Yeah.
And Kimbe and Balpakram, I've been told that the hard copy will be out soon. They're just waiting for the ISBN numbers. So I'm also eagerly waiting.
Yes.
I recently got to see little crocheted dolls, one of Kimbe and her calf. So, I mean, so there's merchandise based on the story
coming
as well.
out as well. Great, wonderful. So my final question is, do you have any other plans in mind? What's next?
Oh yes, I mean, I'm a dreamer and I'm a planner, but actually getting to make those dreams and plans, to realize them, they take time also. However, I have been motivated to kind of explore more about just even Balpakram itself. It's not just these 1-2 elements. There are thousands more that are unexplored. And I would love to come up with, a follow-up of, the next adventure in Balpakram.
Just set around Balpakram itself to have.
I think just even that village.
Yeah.
Maybe a day in the village or something.
A day in the ghost village.
Yeah, that would be
very interesting. It would be very interesting. Hope you get that done soon.
Please remind me.
We'll message. Message. So I think we're done. Thank you so much with sparing your time and coming here and being
thank
part
you
of
so
this
much
project.
for inviting me and to be able to talk about this story and the process that I went through. Yeah. It's lovely. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll have you on again soon. Thank you, dear viewers, for sparing the time to be part of this program again. Jemimah's book is available online, right?
On Storyweaver.
On Storyweaver. You can download it, you can have a look. There are many other books there as well, which even though Jemimah is not involved with, they're still part of the same project.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So please do check it out. We will be leaving a link to that in the description. And once again, I would like to thank the hosts, Kong Farida and her family here in Shillong. Thank you so much. I'll see you again in the next episode.